Hey, what's up guys? It's your girl A-Simone back at it again with another video. So as you saw by the title of this, we are back with episode 7 of P-Valley. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay guys, so this episode starts off with a flashback scene of Uncle Clifford's grandmother, Miss Ernestine. So in season 1, they like showed us, they didn't tell us, but they showed us or insinuated that the pink was always in the family. It wasn't obviously always a strip club, but it was always in Uncle Clifford's family, you know, with his his older family members before him. So in this opening scene, we get a flashback scene for Miss Ernestine to say that she was I don't know if she was the owner of the club, maybe so, because there was on one of the episodes in Clifford's office, it was a sign and it says, I think, Ernestine's like juke joint or something like that. I'll see if I can put a picture or find it in the show. But yeah, so we get a flashback scene of Miss Ernestine. She was a singer at this family club or whatever. And yeah, so the next scene is Hailey and she got so many different names. Autumn, Hailey. They meet up at the club, her Uncle Clifford, to talk about, you know, this whole situation of the club being bought out. So Hailey reveals that Promised Land, you know, the people in the city who were trying to build this casino offered her $5 million and she turned it down. So she's having this conversation with Uncle Clifford saying, I'm trying to get what I'm worth. And she's saying, I'm trying to get what the pink is worth. And Uncle Clifford saying, don't make this seem like it's about me. This is about you. But Hailey says to him, you know, when I saved the club, that was all the money that she had. The money that she scammed up or however, whatever she did. And she also mentions her daughter, who she lost her daughter. Now, they did like a flashback scene to her daughter. I can't remember what it was. I'm going to go back and look at it and, try to find that flashback scene. So yeah, so Hailey's pretty much saying, you know, I gave up all my money to save the club, which she did when they did the auction. You know, I'm trying to get, you know, what I put down for this club plus some more, plus for you. But Uncle Clifford, he isn't going for it. He, you know, he's making it seem like Hailey is all for herself. And like I said, since Hailey came on the scene from first season, it's been, you know, off energy that they get from her. Like, they don't get, okay, this is a real one and we F with her. It's always been shady energy towards Hailey. And she has a shady past. I mean, and she's trying to look out for herself, but there's nothing wrong from that. But they never really got that foundation of I really F with you. Like, they never got that from Hailey and all the other girls from the club. Like, it was never that connection that they had on some real stuff. So yeah, Uncle Clifford pretty much says, you doing this for yourself. And when he walks off, he says, that baby ain't coming back, referring to Hailey's daughter. So that was kind of a crazy one-liner for him to say, you know, seeing that she did lose her child. Okay, so the next thing we have is Little Murda has been staying at Uncle Clifford and Miss Ernestine's house since Big Teek's untimely death by suicide. So yeah, and I hate this because I said this in the last episode, when, you know, Negroes, they put you off to the side, and then when something happens, they come running back to you. So I hate that whole dynamic of him coming to run back to Uncle Clifford, because since Murda night, they really haven't spoken. He's been out here trying to, you know, be this rap superstar, and yeah, he really hasn't even been in communication with Uncle Clifford. We're just like, okay, you trying to do your thing, but you can say what's up, you know, hey, what's up, especially after we didn't, you know, smashed and took it there. So yeah, I just hate this whole dynamic of him coming to run back after something like that happens, and he's really, you know, traumatized from it. But you know, him and Uncle Clifford, you know, they got their thing going on. They got their love for each other. So it is what it is. So yeah, so from the last couple episodes, Miss Ernestine has been really sick. She's on insulin. Obviously, she's an older woman. yeah, so little Murda is at the house. He's taking care when Uncle Clifford has to go to the club or go out to the store or do anything. Little Murda is there to stay and staying there and watching after Miss Ernestine, as he should, being, you know, that he's chilling up in the crib, you know, for these days. So they're upstairs and he cooks her, I don't know if it's Sunday, but you know, we live in the South, so he cooked her some collard greens, macaroni, and some else. This is like a Sunday dinner. But in the South, I mean, you can cook that on any given day. So he fixes her a plate and he says, I need you to put in a word for Uncle Clifford for me. Because Uncle Clifford, you know, he still feels some kind of way about, you know, how you dissed me and, you know, then going on tour and this, that, and the third. She was like, okay, you know, okay, I know what you're trying to do. You keep making these plates like this, referring to the food, and I got you. So then, Miss Ernestine, she's sitting there, and she says, all that blood, referring to the night that Little Murda showed up to their house. She said, all that blood you had on you, I smelled death. And she looks Little Murda in his eyes and says, I smell death. So when Little Murda came to the house, I feel like Miss Ernestine, she definitely doesn't know exactly what happened, but it's to the point where I don't even think that, or maybe he told Uncle Clifford what happened, but it's to the point where I don't even know if that happened. If anything, Miss Ernestine, she doesn't fully know what happened. But it's to the point where I don't even know if he gave all the details to Uncle Clifford what even happened. For all we know, he could have just told him, yo, some crazy just went down. Like yo, I just saw some crazy stuff. And maybe he didn't even really go into detail that, you know, his prison bae, that they was on the DL, he took his life. So Miss Ernestine definitely doesn't know, I feel like we don't even know if Clifford knows all the details. So Miss Ernestine looks him in the face and says, I smell death. Like all that blood you had on your body, like that's what she's sensing. And, you know, like I said, we're in the South, we're in Mississippi, so you know, the whole voodoo, you know, spiritual culture, especially older people, like they got different senses and different energy that, you know, we don't have, or, you know, from back in the day that, you know, the younger generation, you know, we don't have those type of senses or that type of energy the older people have. So yeah, okay. So next we have Keyshawn and Derek. They're in the supermarket, the grocery store shopping, and she sees Hailey. So like I said, Keyshawn is in a domestic situation. So it's to the point where it's like, if she sees a friend, well, in this situation, well, what happened with Diamond, it's been awkward anyway. But even in a situation, in a domestic violence situation, if she sees a friend out and about, it's not gonna be like, hey girl, how you doing? It's like she's getting abused. She doesn't want anything to do with this man. She's trying to get away from this man. So it's like her whole energy of being in a domestic violence situation is just down. Like she's not seeing a friend out at the grocery store being like, hey girl, how you doing? That's just not her energy because she's going through it at home. So she sees Hailey and she plays it off. So Hailey goes around the corner to the next aisle and Derek says, we'll meet you at the at the front. So she goes and she meets up with Hailey on the next aisle. And we find out that Hailey is the one that gave Keyshawn the gun. So in that in the episode before where we saw Keyshawn sit on the couch acting like she was going to shoot Derek, I thought that was just a gun that she had stashed. But now that we think about it, it makes sense. Keyshawn, she's so disconnected from trying to truly get away from Derek that her having a gun stashed, that really didn't even add up with her personality and how she is towards Derek. So now it really makes sense that Hailey gave her the gun not too long ago, or back when, you know, when she was still at the club, you know, we're assuming, and that's how she got the gun and she had it hid. So Hailey's pretty much telling her, she was like, you didn't take my advice, you didn't do what I told you to do as far as me giving you the gun. So Keyshawn, she was like, I just couldn't do it. And she ends up running off and, you know, going to the front to the checkout with Derek. So Little Murda gets a call from Wody, and his song is blowing up. So I'm guessing it was the same song that him and Big T heard, and he did a feature with Tina Snow, which they already said that Meg Thee Stallion is going to be featured on here. So they're calling her Tina Snow, so it seems like she's not going to be playing actual Meg Thee Stallion, which I like that. I like when, you know, like celebrities play an actual character instead of just coming on the show as themselves. So it seems like she's going to be playing Tina Snow and not actually Meg Thee Stallion. So yeah, so his single is blowing up, and Wody calls him like, yo, what's going on, da da da. And Lil Murda pretty much telling him, was like, I got to lay low, like after what happened. And Wody's like, yo, we got to get back on tour. So Lil Murda's like, well, what about security? And, you know, Wody's like, you know, we'll figure it out. So Wody, his family is in the funeral service business. That's how they were driving around in their gold hearse. So that's what Wody's family does, and he grew up seeing it. So Little Murda asked him about Big T's family. He says no family has came forward to like claim the body, and he would have to like do what he had to do or whatever. So yeah, so Wody, he's, you know, concerned about getting back on tour because Little Murda's single is blowing up. But Little Murda saying, I'm going through some stuff. I just saw a man take his life. Like, I get what you're saying. This is a major opportunity, but I'm human and I'm going through it. You have to understand what I just seen. Okay, so then Little Murda goes upstairs because he hears a lot of bumping, and Uncle Clifford was upstairs trying to find him some clothes to wear for the next couple of days, so he would, you know, have a change of clothes. And Little Murda comes out and asks Uncle Clifford, like, what is this? What are you? Referring to him being so flamboyant and wearing wigs and makeup and all that stuff. Because Little Murda, he's into guys, but he's on some street stuff. So, you know, he's on the DL, but I guess his natural environment, his natural energy is to be like a man's man or a tough street guy, even though he is, you know, gay on the low. So him, you know, so it's a real weird, interesting dynamic. It's like you on the DL, you have Uncle Clifford who is an openly gay man, and it's like why are you questioning that? And it's just like, you know, when it comes to anything, nothing is a monolith. Meaning nothing is going to be a one size fits all when it comes to black or white, gay, straight. So it's just an interesting dynamic of him questioning Uncle Clifford for being so, you know, flamboyant and over the top. But it's like, you're not even living in your truth. So I don't know, it's just like, why is that so confusing to you? And I feel like flamboyant gay men have been around for centuries. So yeah, so that's an interesting dynamic, him questioning Uncle Clifford like that. So yeah, okay, so now we have Mercedes and Tarika, which is her daughter. So Tarika has officially been staying at Mercedes' house because her grandmother is a full-blown drunk. She's struggling during the pandemic. She doesn't have steady income, and she's just drinking herself to death, literally. So she finally convinces her to bring Tarika to her house a few days, and we officially find out that Tarika is pregnant. So yeah, they end up taking a ride, and Tarika thinks they're going to get ice cream or whatever because she's having these pregnancy cravings. So she's like, okay, you're gonna take me to the store. So once Mercedes is driving, she's like, yo, we're not going to get ice cream, are we? So we find out that they're going to Jackson, Mississippi, which is a city outside of where they are. And Tarika pretty much puts two and two together and says, people only go to Jackson for one thing, and that's to get a s'mortion. So yeah, so they're arguing. Tarika gets out the car because I don't know if she's nauseous or she just wanted to stop the car. And yeah, and then they end up stopping at a diner while they're on the way to this drive, because Tarika has to use the bathroom. So when they're in this diner, Mercedes has a flashback moment of her and her mother in a diner. So they're sitting in a diner. This is when Mercedes is a teenager, and when she's dating the guy she gets pregnant by. So, yeah, so during this time, Mercedes' mom is like struggling. She's a single parent. She's not doing that well. So they're sitting at the diner ready to pay for the check. And Mercedes' mom goes, I really ain't got it like that. And there's a man that was staring at them at the diner. Well, on the, like at the little bar where you sit up close to the diner. And Mercedes' mama tells Mercedes, like, hey, that guy keeps staring. Why don't you go do what you do? So then Mercedes is like, we ain't got to do that. I got the money. So Mercedes pulls out like a rack of 20s. And she's like, where the heck did you get that from? And she was like, oh, such and such. I can't remember the guy's name. She goes, oh, Trey. Let's just call him Trey. He looks out for me. And Mercedes' mama sees a condom up under the the stack of money. And she was like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the condom. And she was like, some, you sleeping with this boy, da-da-da. Y'all, she proceeds to beat Mercedes' tail in this diner. Like, this scene, the way they shot this scene, y'all, she went off on Mercedes. So, I don't know if at that point in time, she even knew that she was messing with the boy at all, but she saw the stack of money, and then she saw the condom, and she went off. Like, she beat Mercedes' tail in this diner in the public. But just before that, y'all, she asked Mercedes to do what she do because she didn't have enough money to pay for the bill. So that whole scene right there, it was given, I'm pimping out my daughter. But now that your daughter is all of a sudden sexually active, whether it was an older boy or not, sexually active, I don't understand why you're so upset when you were trying to pimp your daughter out to pay for the meal. Like, what was your expectation of you putting this girl out there like that she wasn't going to eventually be sexually active, even with a boy that was a couple years older than her? So that dynamic, that was really like twisted and weird. And I guess that just goes back to her her church background, her church mindset of, being this holy saved woman, and right and wrong and heaven and hell. But it's just like, you just try to get your daughter to flirt with this older man to pay for the meal. So that was really a weird dynamic, that whole flashback scene. So yeah, so eventually, so they're going back and forth the whole time, while they're driving. And yeah, Tarika ends up saying, well, you had a baby and your relationship didn't work out. You're just jealous because this guy actually loves me. We're going to be together. And Mercedes proceeds to take her fist and knock the heck out of Tarika for back talking. But Tarika, I mean, she was just in her feelings. She was like, oh, you just mad at me because I got a boyfriend and we're going to live happily ever after. But Tarika, she's so young and naive. It's like Mercedes already knows. Like, you thinking this is going to be forever. This is going to be this fantasy. And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't end up happening like that. So you think this boy loves and cares about you now. But once that baby gets here, once you push that baby out, it's going to be a whole different song. Hopefully it won't. But they're, based on statistics, there's a good chance that it will be. So yeah, they're going back and forth the whole time because Mercedes is pretty much trying to lean her towards not having the baby. Like, that's Mercedes' whole energy this whole entire time. And guys, this was a real moment, I feel like, for them to show a different side of Mercedes on this show. Her daughter's going through the same thing that she went through. She didn't raise her daughter because of, circumstances or whatever. So I feel like this is a real moment for them to show Mercedes' soft side, excuse me. And I feel like they didn't. Mercedes, from the beginning of the show, she's rolling her neck, snapping the fingers, it's giving real ratchet, I'll beat your tail if you come at me wrong energy. And I feel like this was the first moment or real moment for us to see another side of Mercedes, and I feel like we didn't. I feel like she was not sympathizing or giving any kind of soft energy towards her daughter at all. And it's just like, she's going through a teen pregnancy, the exact same thing you went through. I understand you're mad and upset, but you weren't there in that girl's life. So it seems like you should try to have as much compassion as possible. And I feel like this was our time to see that from Mercedes, and we didn't get it from her. And I was a little, I was a little taken back by that we did see Mercedes be softer with her daughter in this situation. So yes, like I said, the whole entire time they're going back and forth. Like I said, they go to Jackson, Mississippi, which Tarika says, you know, young girls only go there to do one thing. So they go to the clinic, you have protesters outside, everything. So they go in there, it's a black nurse or black technician, I don't know what they're called, I guess a nurse. And we found out that Tarika is 14 weeks and 4 days. So that's a little over, that's 3.5 months, because it's 4 weeks in a month. So 4, 8, 12 weeks will make 3 months. So 14 is 3.5 months. So yeah, so the nurse pretty much tells them that the window is closing, meaning you don't have much time. You're gonna have to decide within the next day or so for us to make this appointment if you want to do this, because the actual window to get the procedure is closing. You don't have a lot of time. So yeah, like I said, the whole entire time they're going back and forth. Then they get a hotel room, because Jackson, I think, is and it's an hour away. So Mercedes ends up, I guess, getting a hotel room, just trying to talk to Tarika and see what she wants to do before they drive all the way back home. So yeah, the whole entire time they're going back and forth, because this is, you know, this is a life decision. It's tough, it's not easy. So the whole entire time they're going back and forth. Then Tarika, she storms off in the bathroom and she says, "I'm having this baby, da 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 da." And then Mercedes finally reveals to her, like, "Yo, I effed up. I should have fought for you. I should have did more for you. And I'm sorry." And she also reveals that her mom made her have the baby on some, like, "Oh, you know, you lay down and you did it." And we know how Miss Patrice is, her attitude. So when Mercedes says that she made her have the baby, it was on some, "Oh, you think you grown, you want to lay down and hook up with boys? Well, you gonna find out what it's like to be a mother." So in Mercedes' situation, just based on the mentality of her mother, she didn't have a choice. Her mother wasn't like, "Oh, you're too young, we're gonna go handle this." Her mom was like, "No, you think you grown, so you're gonna have it." So yeah, Mercedes reveals that she had to have the baby living under her mama, as crazy as she is. So then Tarika finally calms down and comes out of the bathroom, and they hug and they kiss. So like I said, this whole entire time, even though she drove her to the clinic, the whole entire time they're going back and forth about this. Because I said, this is a life decision. It's serious. So yeah, so they leave the hotel, and I guess she decides to go back home. And Tarika is still asking, "What should I do?" And Mercedes is saying, "You have to decide that. I can't make that decision for you." So they're driving, and she actually throws Tarika the keys and lets her drive, because we know Tarika been sneaking around driving the whole entire time. So she asked her, "Can I drive?" And she's like, "Girl, no, you're not driving my car." But on the way back home, she throws her the keys and she lets her drive, you know, back home. So they're driving, and she puts on the turn signal, and we see a sign that says Jackson. So she turns over and they head back to the city of Jackson, and you see Mercedes smile. So it seems like Tarika made the decision to not go through with having the baby. So yeah, okay, so next we go back to the house of Miss Ernestine. So they hear something downstairs. They go running downstairs. They see the door wide open. So they're calling for Miss Ernestine, and they're like, "Yo, where the heck's Miss Ernestine?" And then they go outside, go through the woods. They're trying to find Miss Ernestine, because she's not in the house. So the one moment they're in the room talking, you know, she literally slips away just that fast from waking up out of her nap. So they go through the woods, and then they go towards the river, and they see her robe and her shoes. And Miss Ernestine is walking towards the river. And they're like, "No, Miss Ernestine, no, Miss Ernestine." So she's right there at the edge before they catch her. And she's like, "I gotta get to the river. It's time for me to go home." Now, in an earlier scene In the opening scene, we see her daughter come to her in like this vision. Her daughter, who has passed away, who was Uncle Clifford's mom. She comes to her and she says, "Mom, come on home." And she has a drink in her hand, like, "Mama, come on home." So she tells her, "No, baby, it's not time yet." So that happens in the opening scene, after the opening scene. So now we have her trying to walk out to the Mississippi River. And she's like, "I gotta get to the river before I go home. I gotta get to the water, get to the river." And they're like, "No, Grandma, come on, calm down, calm down." She's like, "I gotta go home," referring to, heaven. So they walk her from the river. I think Uncle Murda takes and like splashes some water, some ripple water on her to like calm her down, to kind of get her to calm down. So they get back home and they call the ER because she's, she's not in her right state of mind. And they send her to the ER. So they're upstairs. And little Murda tries to cheer Uncle Clifford up. So he dresses up. He goes in the closet and gets some of his clothes. Early in the episode, Clifford calls little Murda Cisco because he has his hair dyed platinum blonde. So yeah, so he goes and he puts on the thong song. He dresses up in all these, girly clothing. He's just trying to get Uncle Clifford to laugh because he's going through it, Miss Ernestine. They just sent her to the hospital. And, this is his grandmother. So, the thoughts and the contemplation of losing his grandmother, even with old age, somebody you was born and raised with, that's never easy. Even in, like, oh, when she's old, she's lived life. It's like, that doesn't matter. That's still, it's going to be a tough, pill to swallow. So he's upstairs. He's dancing to Cisco, trying to cheer Uncle Clifford up. And then they end up falling back on the bed, and Uncle Clifford starts to cry. And little Murda holds his head and, just says, "Hey, come on. Don't do that. I'm here. I got you." And guys, they end up getting into it. So they strip off all their clothes, and little Murda lays back, and Uncle Clifford gets on top, you guys. And yeah, so it seems like this is the first time, y'all, this freaking train is coming. It seems like this is the first. Okay, guys, so like I said, little Murda lays back and Uncle Clifford gets on top. And it seems like this is the first time that little Murda has bottomed. So if you guys don't know what that means, in the LGBT community, with gay men, you have a top and you have a bottom. So in, regular, heterosexual sex, they don't break it down like that. But in gay sex, you have the man who's giving and the man who's receiving. So Uncle Clifford gets on top, lays him back, and it seems like this is the first time he's done that. So like I said, Uncle Murda he's on the DL, but he's street, he's gangster, he's thugged out. So in all his sexual encounters with men, he's the one on top, like he's the dominant one. But in this scene, he lays back. He lays back and he takes it. So it seems like this is the first time he's done this. So this is a big deal. And he's already, professed his love to us, the audience, that he loves Uncle Clifford. But yeah. But yeah, they took it there. And they, like I said, we don't have a lot of sex scenes on this show from season 1 to, this season. But they have took it there this season. They have really took it there. And I've seen some YouTubers, some gay male YouTubers doing reviews and how much they appreciate these gay sex scenes. And then, everybody else is up in arms. But they have taken it there with the sex scenes. So yeah, so like I said, they were in there, at first, like I said, Uncle, little Murda was just dancing around trying to cheer him up because Miss Ernestine just got, taken to the emergency room, and then they end up, having a moment and doing their thing. So as they're laying there together, little Murda gets emotional, and Uncle Clifford tells him, "Hey, you don't have to talk about anything right now. When you're ready, when, you have a good sense of, you know, being able to talk about it, you can tell me then. So that's why I said I don't know if he gave the full details of what happened with Big Teak. Because in that moment when they were lying together, Little Murda gets emotional, and Uncle Clifford, he stops up and says, hey, you don't have to do this right now. You can do this when you're ready. I'm not forcing anything upon you to talk about what happened. And that's dope. Yeah, because when it comes to trauma, you should never be like, hey, babe, talk to me, just tell me. You should never force somebody to talk about something traumatic. It should always be on their term. Okay, so now we have Tarika and Mercedes sitting on the couch back home, and Tarika calls her mama, and Mercedes' face just lights up. So it seems like, you know, she's always called her by her first name. She's never called her mama. So this whole bonding experience is really, you know, brought them closer with that mother-daughter relationship. So they see a commercial for Miss Patrice for her church or whatever, and Tarika asks Mercedes, am I going to hell? And referring to, you know, in the Bible, you know, her going to the clinic and doing what she did and essentially, you know, getting rid of the baby. So she asked Mercedes, like, am I going to hell for what I did? And Mercedes is kind of taken aback, like, oh God, like, Jesus Christ, you know, she wasn't expecting her, I guess, to go there or to even have that thought. And Mercedes says, well, if you going, I'm going to. Pretty much saying all the stuff, all the bad I've done in my life, you know, we're not perfect and it is what it is. So yeah, okay. So the last thing we have for this episode is Hailey shows up to Derek and Keyshawn's house. So she has a gift. I don't know what she tells him at the door. I can't remember. I had to go back and read the caption, because when I first watched it, the caption wasn't on there, and I'd be like missing what they be saying because I don't want to turn my TV up sky high. So I got to go back and see what she said. But she comes with like a gift bag. I can't remember what I couldn't hear what she said. But Derek answers the door, of course, because he's, you know, thinks he's running something, you know, crazy. So she said, hey, I have a gift, and he lets her in. Then they go to the kids' room and they're talking, and Hailey is telling her a story. I think she's telling her like a domestic violence story. And Keyshawn's just kind of sitting there in the daze, like, girl, what are you talking about? And Hailey's holding the baby and kind of bonding with Keyshawn's child. And then and then Hailey finally hands her the bag, and we see that it's a burner phone. So if you guys know what a burner phone is, it's pretty much when people have, when they're trying to do things on the side. So you typically hear this with like drug dealers. So drug dealers, they'll have their main cell phone when they're out, I guess, in the streets doing their thing. They'll have a burner phone to where they, like an old school, like track phone, so where they like can't be traced or whatever. So like, so you see this like with people who are doing like street stuff, or if a man is cheating, he'll have a second phone or something like that. It's pretty much a phone for you to be untraced. So Hailey hands her the gift bag and sees that it's a burner phone, because Derek traces everything that Keyshawn does. And like I said, Hailey, she's been there, she's done that. She knows that Keyshawn is on the freaking leash for everything that she does. So she gives her this burner phone, and she tells Keyshawn, when you ready to get Derek up out of here, you hit me up on this phone. So that was dope. So we see Hailey kind of stepping and coming through. Now everybody else is still mad at Keyshawn for what she did, pulling out the gun for Derek. But it seems like Hailey and her are having this bonding moment with, you know, her being in this domestic violence situation. So it seems like Hailey is really trying to come through and get Keyshawn out of this. More than likely because Hailey, you know, went through this in her past with everything. Which we don't know all of Hailey's past, but we know that she was running from it. And then we had a whole man try to kill her because she had his money. So we know that Hailey has been through some stuff in her past, losing her daughter and, you know, everything. So yeah, so then we see Hailey kind of having this bonding experience with Keyshawn, even though everybody else is still mad at Keyshawn. They're not on good terms with Keyshawn. So yeah, this is a real interesting and you know, cool dynamic that Hailey is trying to help Keyshawn get out of this. Hopefully by the end of the season we see something. If they drag her and Derek still being together, we only have a couple more episodes left this season, guys. So if they drag her and Derek being together this season, maybe they'll do it as a season finale, or maybe in the opening of season 3 they might surprise us and let us know that Derek is up out of here. But yeah, guys, that is it. That was the episode. Like I said, we missed 1 week. They skipped 1 week, then they brought it back. So yeah, tell me what you guys think. Go ahead, like this video. That helps. Subscribe to my channel. Leave me any comments down below, what you think, what I missed, what I might have got wrong. Follow me on my social medias. And I will see y'all next time.